Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Susan. As I said before, I'm with Career Services here at Florida Tech. Today we have Gavin with us from Embraer, and he's going to talk a little bit about professionalism and how to be professional in person and on paper in your resume. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can type them in the chat. At the end of the presentation, we will open it up for you to ask questions out loud, or I'll read them from the chat. With that, I'll give it away to Gavin.
Thank you, Susan. It's a pleasure to be here. I always enjoy speaking with my FIT students. Very happy to be here, and thank you as well to Donna for being so supportive of Embraer. We're very grateful for not only the students, but also the career services team. So for that, I thank you. So we'll go ahead and kick it off here. Again, I'll go ahead and reintroduce myself. My name's Gavin. I'm with the talent acquisition team for Embraer Executive Jets. So I do have a handful of participation in Embraer Commercial, Embraer Eve, which is the electric eVTOL urban air mobility project that Embraer is facilitating, as well as Beacon and Embraer X. I know it's a lot of different companies that we support in talent acquisition, but primarily all hiring for the US side of Embraer, as 80% of the Embraer company is based in Brazil. So for the most part, we're doing all the US hiring. And so I support the executive division for the most part here in Melbourne, Florida. And we also support locations in Mesa, Arizona, Davie, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, as well as Nashville, Tennessee, and Macon, Georgia. So thanks again for having me. Today we'll go over some professionalism and resume tips. We're going to kind of gear it toward professionalism before you enter your career and after you enter your career, because it's always great to have the tips to get to the point of being hired for a position. But what do you do after that? What do you do for your career once you finally made it into the company that you'd like to be within? And so we'll touch some points on that as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. So this is a map of everywhere that Embraer is located. So we have many locations here in the US, but equally as many in Brazil. Like I said, we have Melbourne, Fort Lauderdale, we have Mesa, Arizona, and those are all executive jets specific. And then we have our commercial division in Nashville, in Macon, Georgia, as well as our defense sector located in Jacksonville. And so it's going to be a busy year. There's more contracts than ever. So we are staying busy, growing, and continuously hiring. So Embraer is, again, faceted in multi-different businesses. Again, for the most part, we're in the commercial division. So we have the E190s and E2s flying with JetBlue and United. And so there's a very good chance you may have flown on an Embraer aircraft and you may have not even known it. The executive jets is what we produce and sell here in Melbourne, Florida. So this is a quick look at one of the Praetors, which is our super mid-sized jet. And these retail between 10 and 35 million US dollars. We have the defense and security sector as well, located in Jacksonville in the US, and they produce the KC-390s, the large cargo aircraft, and the Super Tucano fighter planes that hold the 50 caliber machine guns and remote missiles as well on the side. So very cool light aircraft. And then we also have the agriculture division that is mostly based in Brazil, but they do bring aircraft over here to the US to support the agriculture division. And this is just a quick snip of our Melbourne facility. So this is our outside hangar near our delivery center. So you can see they're towing one of our legacy 450s over to the delivery center. And this is where they'll host customers and companies globally. And they will come to Melbourne, Florida to preview their jet and to get a good look at the interior of the aircraft, as well as ask any questions to the sales team, or even go visit the production facility. We've had some pretty high-level guests that come through. It's very nice to see that they feel welcomed here and they want to tour our production facility. I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago that we had Tom Cruise, and a couple years past that we had Taylor Swift come by, which I just learned yesterday. That's pretty interesting. And then we'll go ahead and move it to a video. Here, let me go back. Quick video of the Melbourne campus here so you guys can get a better look at what we do here in Melbourne and what's being built right in your backyard. You know, redo. Okay, very good. I thought that was important to share with the FIT students here, because everybody gets a chance to hear about Embraer, but they don't get a chance to see it and get past the guard gates to really put their eyes on.
This powerful $99 drone is now available in the US. This is an extremely high-tech $5,000 drone. It was developed so that Navy SEALs could do stealth missions, detect.
There we go. Apologies, everybody. Technical difficulties. Okay, very good. We can resume. But yeah, I mean, I really thought that was important for especially our local Melbourne students, because I never really was aware or privy to, understand and know what these manufacturing companies are doing on the Space Coast and at the Melbourne airport, with the recent news too of new companies coming in to the Melbourne airport, and just the amount of business here and jobs and work is incredible, and it's growing, and there's a ton of potential for growth and career opportunities. And FIT students have been really fantastic to work with, and I think that this news is going to be very promising for future job seekers and people who are currently in the talent market. So glad to share that one. So this is a quick overview of the product portfolio that we produce here in Melbourne, Florida. Starting out with the Phenom 100 EV. It's our light business jet. It seats 6 to 8 people with 1 pilot or 2 pilots. Our Phenom seats just 2 additional people with 2 pilots as well. The Phenom 300E is actually the 10th consecutive year best-selling light jet, and we're continuing to track for another 10 years of best-selling light jet. So we're very lucky and very fortunate to have the Phenom in our product portfolio. But the big guys, the Praetor 500 and Praetor 600, are beautiful aircraft. I've had the opportunity to sit in them a handful of times, and they are state-of-the-art, just incredibly beautiful aircraft for the super mid-sized jet. I haven't had the privilege to fly in one just yet, but I do want to get that flight in as soon as possible and get a test flight. But we'll go ahead and move to professionalism. We're not here just to talk about Embraer, but I like to give everybody an overview of what Embraer does here in Melbourne, Florida, as well as globally. So we have the question of what is professionalism? And that's something I'm going to ask you guys here at the end of our presentation as well. What is professionalism to you? And how does that translate before your interview, after your interview, and during your career? So professionalism is defined by Webster's dictionary as the competence or skill expected of a professional. Now, what does that mean? Expected. So it's automatically assumed when you're going to speak with these companies, especially in aviation, that you come in at a high level. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you're coming in with business attire. You're coming in with a resume and a portfolio of certifications, potentially even laminated or directed specifically to a company. There are many ways to make yourself a professional in the eyes of a company. And one of those first things is initially having all of your certifications and resumes and projects that you want to include in a portfolio that you can carry with you. It's important. Recruiters love to see that. If you're at networking events, they want to see that. It's easy to give an email to a recruiter or to a company, but it's even better to give them a business card and a resume to give them something tangible to hold on to, because they're going to go through that when they go home or when they come back to their company and start to review resumes. They want to have something in their hands, and just initially you want to set the tone for a high-level professional. And so professionalism during an interview. How do you determine you're professional? How do you display your professionalism during an interview? To start with, it's good attire. You want to make sure you're dressing business casual at the minimum for every interview. It doesn't matter the industry you're going into, the company. If you want to set a good impression, you'd want to be in business casual attire. Now, recruiters are, for the most part, pretty good at responding to questions. And a lot of the time, questions don't come for the recruiter until the day of the interview. Now, that's not professional. You should be asking these questions a week in advance. If your interview is scheduled 3 days away from the actual interview time, you should be asking on that first day, what should I be wearing? How can I show up professionally, whether it's in person or virtual? You should always just expect business casual at a minimum. And then communication. You're going to be communicating with a company's recruiter, maybe a HR business partner, as well as a hiring manager during your interview, or a recruiter during your interview. And you want to follow a certain set of communication to make yourself appear as a professional, but also to practice, because if you don't get a job at an interview, then what you do get is practice. And the practice is what really takes you a long way in these interviews and developing your career, and developing your brand as an individual. So we'll start out with email and phone etiquette. You want to make sure to maintain a good amount of contact with a company or recruiter early on. So making sure that you're staying up to date with questions like interview times, locations, getting a map potentially of the campus, depending on how big the campus is that you're going to visit for a company. And then phone etiquette as well. If your recruiter is text messaging you, then it's appropriate to send a quick text message with a question. But if the recruiter is only emailing you or only phone call, then you should reciprocate with that and give the recruiter a call, or you should send a professional letter titled email over to the company so that you can maintain that good level of contact, as well as being professional. And what do you do when you're in the interview and you're speaking with the hiring manager and you're speaking with the HR business partner that you see in person? To start off, you want to maintain eye contact. A lot of recruiters and HR business partners can feel your energy during an interview. And so when you're looking down or twiddling your thumbs or looking out of the window when they're trying to speak directly to you, they're there to speak to you for an opportunity that is for you. It's not for them. So maintain eye contact. Make sure to have a nice handshake. We're starting to move out of the COVID era, so handshaking has become increasingly more appropriate, especially if there's hand sanitizer on the table. Generally, that's what will happen when an interview is being conducted. Another thing is confidence. Have confidence entering your interview. Look up interview questions. Come into the Career Services Center at FIT and be prepared for your job that you're looking to enter. Be prepared for the company that you're going to speak to. FIT has a great relationship with many of the local manufacturing companies, and they're already familiar with a lot of the jobs that FIT students are starting out in. And so if anybody has knowledge on how to prepare for that interview, it's going to be Susan and Donna. They're incredible, and you can learn a lot from those guys. And then formally declining an offer. What if you are in 10 interviews in 2 weeks and you're a high quality candidate and you're open to multiple offers, or you have multiple offers? How do you decline an offer but maintain that good relationship without burning any bridges? That's an important thing, is a lot of people don't know how to decline an offer appropriately. You hear a lot about ghosting. Students or candidates just ghosting an offer entirely, or a company ghosting a candidate. I think that that's not professional. If you would like to decline an offer, if you've had an interview, if you're being considered for a position, you should at the bare minimum send a letterhead email over to the recruiter and company, and potentially even interviewer who conducted the interview, to let them know that you're formally declining the offer. And you can include as little or as much information about why you're declining the offer. If it's valuable feedback for the company, I say include it, because that could help the recruiter or future candidates during interviews. It's good to get that feedback from candidates, and a lot of students coming from FIT have a great deal of experience and come with a high level of certification experience. So that's important if you come in a situation of having to decline an offer, because I'm sure it'll happen to everybody here at some point. And then following up. What do you do when you're following up after the interview and you're curious? You're sitting there for 3 days You're looking, no emails, no phone calls, 4 days. What do you do? I say follow up. You follow up with your hiring manager. You follow up with your interviewer. You add them on LinkedIn. You get them a short and sweet email or a notification following up, showing your interest and showing your determination to the job and to the company. And that goes a long way. A lot of the times companies will have 2 or 3 candidates that are the finalist candidates. And if the offers don't work out or they can't come to an agreement on the offer, then you could be that 3rd or 4th in line candidate. And showing that extra determination in the follow-up and being professional can bring you a long way and can give you a much greater chance of being looked at for an offer to be considered and be into that pool. And so some tips on professionalism, and this can apply to during your interview, this can apply to after your interview, this can apply in your career. These are some great tips overall. And so there's some things you want to think about. To start, you want to be dependable. You want to be dependable to interview. You want to be a dependable coworker. You want to be dependable to your team, because for the most part, you're going to be working with a team of individuals, and they're going to rely on you. And so you have to be dependable, especially early on in your career. You want to show up early and stay late if you can. You want to go out of your way to acquire extra responsibility. You want to be irreplaceable in your career. And the sooner you can set that tone of being dependable and irreplaceable, the greater chances you have of developing a long career at your company. And you want to be a team player. Like I said, a lot of people are going to be on teams. They may be small teams, they may be big teams, but regardless, you want to be a team player. You want to take advice. You want to take into account the interest of the company. You want to take into account your boss's interests, your boss's interests, and how to display that. Now, I'm not saying overstep. Don't overstep past your chain of command, but be that guy or girl who can handle a situation without needing specific advice. Just be there, make sacrifices, and become irreplaceable. And then you want to be respectful. Treat others with respect. Treat your clients with respect. Whether they're external, whether they're internal, you want to treat everyone with respect while you're at work, while you're supporting the company, while you are being the face of that company. You want to always be respectful and show that you have that drive and that you're willing to set some things aside to always be a respectful candidate and a respectful coworker. And be clear. You should be clear in your communication, whether that be during the interview, after the interview, or during your career. If it takes a second to speak a little bit slower to get that full communication across, then take it. It's better to say the right thing than to be quick and potentially say the wrong thing. And so think about what you have to say, be clear, get advice from leadership or the team before if you're not sure, and keep it focused and efficient. Because a lot of the times there's companies who are very lean and they don't have a bunch of time to have conversations. So when you go in to have that conversation or meeting, be clear and get your point across in a short and concise manner. And then be ethical. This is a really HR geared tip here, but be ethical, follow your legal processes. Don't discriminate against anybody for any particular reason. It's just the right thing to do. It's paying attention. It goes in line with being respectful. Just be ethical to your coworkers, be ethical outside of the workplace, pay attention to compliance, especially internationally. Compliance issues are different in the US than they are internationally. and having conversations with other companies can potentially be unethical, but also have legal implications, and the company won't like that. And so just always be cautious and be ethical. And then be the best. That goes in line with being dependable, being a team player. Be the one that your boss wants to call with a question. Be the one that can show up early and stay late. Make sure you can bring that point across, that you are the best and that you can be the best. Because it's not just about skill, it's about making yourself available, making sacrifices, being the best team player, being the most dependable. That's really what it means to be the best. It doesn't always mean to be the best at one thing or in your particular team. It's just in general, do your best to be the best. And practicing balance. How do you balance professionalism in your career? As you develop in your career, you start to develop more friends, you start to develop relationships with coworkers. You want to maintain a certain level of professionalism, regardless of if you're at a work event, work dinner, or also in the office. You want to maintain a certain level of professionalism. Be responsible, hold yourself accountable, hold your team accountable, hold your managers accountable. This is your responsibility, because a lot of the times managers and coworkers need the feedback. And if you pull them aside and you speak to them on a human level, then they're going to be willing to take that feedback, and you'll know the right time to have those conversations and to practice balance. And I'm not saying that you can't have friends at work. You should 100% have friends, but just make sure you're aware the difference between a coworker and a friend. And if you're at work, that friend is always going to be a coworker. So again, maintain that level of professionalism and integrity, and you should be all clear from any issues. And then also keep in mind your personal interest versus the organizational interest. One week you may think that taking a specific action is good for your team or yourself, but what you want to focus on is what the organization wants. So follow up with your leaders, follow up with your supervisors, ask questions. Make sure you understand the difference between your own interests and the company's interest, because you may have an interest that is good for the company, but you always want to shift your focus to the organizational interest, because that is the most important. You're working for a company, you're not working for yourself for the most part. And then remember to have fun, but don't have too much fun. So you want to make sure that you're staying busy. You want to make sure that you're looking for work to do to maintain that professional attitude and conduct yourself as a professional. You can certainly have fun, but it's always good to not overstep, and it's always good to not overdo the fun. And let's talk about professionalism in aviation. We have some good tips here. A lot of FIT students are moving into a aviation focused career. And so it's very important to do a few things before you're starting your interviews. When you're entering your sophomore, junior year, and you're starting to attend career fairs, and you're starting to have a better idea of the type of work that you're looking to do when you graduate. And so my first tip is to build your network. Attend career fairs and local events. There's 10 or 15 aviation specific career fairs that happen in Brevard County annually, and Embraer is at 90% of those events. And so we see other companies there that are big in the Space Coast. We see Northrop Grumman, we see Lockheed, we see SpaceX in the aerospace division, we see Blue Origin. All these companies are going to be participating at these events, and the recruiters that are supporting those businesses will also be there. So building your network early on and handing your resume out And shaking hands with leaders and recruiters is only going to help build your network. And when you graduate and you go to that career fair, that recruiter is going to remember your face and your attitude. And so that's very important to remember. We also have aviation events here that happen in the state of Florida pretty often. The state of Florida is the number 2 or 3 largest aviation state in the US at this time. And so big manufacturers, really big airlines and events that happen between FIT, between Embry-Riddle, between the Orlando airport. All these things are important to attend, again, to build your network. Also be open to a variety of positions. You have to keep in mind that experience is king as of recent. It's always great to have a certification and a degree, but experience is what's going to take you the furthest. So be open to different positions. Be open to a contract role. Be open to an internship. Be open to something full-time right off the bat, because this is what's going to help you excel your career and get that experience required to take you to the next step and start to enter into companies and jobs that you're most interested in. So just because you hear a contract position, don't let that steer you away, because there's incredible contract roles that are popping up throughout Brevard County in the state of Florida. And like I said, there's many positions that start as contract and they roll to full-time within 90 days. So it's important to keep that in mind. And you want to build your brand. Make yourself a LinkedIn. Make yourself a set of business cards. Make sure you hand these out with contact info that's updated, and give it to these hiring managers, give it to these recruiters. It's going to be very helpful for you, and they're going to remember you because of that. Make sure you connect with leaders and recruiters in companies that you wish to enter. Even if you're not reaching out to them directly about an interview or open positions, having them on your connections is useful, and you're going to see their content and they're going to see yours if you're active. And it's always good to keep your online presence squeaky clean, but also to have a career focused social media, and LinkedIn right now is the top of the line. So you want to make sure that you are focusing on that. And here's a good example of what you want your profile to look like in LinkedIn. This is a view of what LinkedIn Recruiter looks like. And so you can see in this short amount of space here, this is what a recruiter sees. Here's his experience. Here's where he went to school. Here's where he's located. All those things are very important. It's just like reviewing a resume, but it's digital. And so your online presence and your education experience is very important to have. A concise title and clear understanding of the position you worked at is perfect. Having your experience laid out in detail, bullet points preferred, is very desirable. It makes the profile look a lot more professional. And then explain your education. What did you do when you got your education? Did you work on projects? Did you speak in any foreign languages? Did you go out of your way to go on trips, or set yourself apart from your local students? Clubs, that's also very good to add as well. And then your spotlights. Make sure you're open to work. If you're looking to interview with companies, make sure your status is set to open to work. But also keep in mind that if you do accept a position, to turn that off, because you don't want recruiters to reach out to you about being open to work and about future positions. So make sure if you're searching for a job that you are open to work on your LinkedIn. And now we'll move over to the resume portion, resume tips and tricks. So you want to make sure that you tailor your resume to the application you're submitting. So if you're going to enter into the education field, make sure you notate your education. Make sure you notate the type of students that you've worked with in the past, the type of clubs that you've participated in or events at a college. You want to make sure that you tailor it to an education specific job. Now it's the same for aviation. You want to make sure that you tailor your certifications, your experience and education specifically to aviation. So that is the number one most important tip I can advise on. Bullet points are preferred, results oriented. Try not to banter too much in your bullet points, just leave it short and sweet. And remember, it's a marketing document. You're going to share this with employers. You're going to share this with managers. You're going to share this with your peers, maybe for feedback. Maybe you're going to share this with the Career Services Center. Just remember that it's a marketing document. You're going to share it. Be consistent. Be consistent in your formatting. Be consistent in your attitude, as well as how you display your resume. Include all quantified information. Make it short and sweet. Keep it simple. Use your power verbs. Make sure you have complete job headings and titles. Make sure you proofread for grammar and spelling error. Make sure you share it with a peer or the Career Services Center. They're incredible at helping out with resumes. And then formatting. What do you want the format of your resume to look like? One-page resume is always preferred, especially in aviation. I see resumes that are one page with 45 years of experience, and I see one-page resumes with 1 year of experience. So it doesn't matter how much experience you have, you can shorten it to a one-page resume. And it's not always going to be easy, but that's where you can leave out small things like a summary or a list of skills. The most important parts are to include the experience summary, education, and then updated contact information. Avoid templates if you can. If that's your last resort, go ahead and take a template if it's appropriate and use it for formatting, but don't use colors, don't use word art or graphics on your resume. Just keep it, again, point blank, simple, small font, no grammar errors, everything updated with regards to contact information. Sometimes recruiters only have 30 seconds at a time to review a resume, and you want to stand out. And the way you do that is by having your experience listed in a one-page format. Professional summary and cover letter both, I would say, are optional. If a company requires a cover letter, go ahead and write a detailed cover letter and have it proofread, because that's going to help you as well. But professional summary is not always necessary. It's not always required. And so if it's taking up too much space in your resume, there's no need to include it. It's not going to make or break it. Bullet points preferred. Keep it short and sweet. Make it detailed, make it focused on the career that you're looking to enter. And use keywords, especially in aviation. You want to make sure that your keywords are focused to the job that you're looking to enter, the company you're looking to enter. That's how your resume is going to get picked up through the major job boards like LinkedIn, Indeed, and ZipRecruiter. So use those keywords. And here's an example. Here's an example of an aviation specific resume for a technician that is very high level. And it also includes a summary and skills, which again are not required. But as you can see here, great experience, education listed, and they still fit the summary and the skills. So if there's room for it and it's applicable, use it. But if there's not room, and it's really important for you to include the certifications or list of projects, definitely include that over a written list of skills. Now, what's great about this resume? What is perfect about this resume? There's not a bunch of flashy colors. There's not a bunch of, specific template, formatting on the resume. That stuff is nice here and there and for certain positions. If you're a technician looking to enter into the aviation field, go ahead and include that name in your active and updated contact info. LinkedIn is also a plus, as well as your address, because a lot of the times when you're accepting an offer, the company will need a home address, and this will help determine if you're a local candidate, if you are a out-of-state candidate. That's really what's going to help determine if they're going to contact you for an interview, is also your location. Concise summary. If you're going to have a summary, make it concise. Put all your relevant information and leave it simple. Skills, again, go ahead and list your skills, but if you have to choose, I would choose the summary over the skills list. The work experience here, it's detailed. For the most part, they're one sentence bullet points. The aircraft that they've worked on is listed here in the top of their experience. That is the most important thing in aviation, is to include the aircraft that you've worked on in particular, because if you're looking to get a job at Boeing, they want to see if you have Boeing experience. If you want to get a job at Embraer, they want to make sure that you have Embraer experience. So go ahead and include that as well, because that's only going to benefit you. Equipment and tools, also perfect for engineers, for technicians. Make sure you include the equipment and tools that you use on a day-to-day basis, because those are the types of questions that managers will ask. And you want to make sure that you're prepared to answer those questions. Same with software. Anybody going into IT, cybersecurity, software engineering, you want to make sure you list out the software experience you have and licenses that you own, as well as certifications. That's very important. Make sure you list the applied knowledge and also your projects that you worked on, whether that be in school, out of school, in a company. It's important to list those as well. Education and certification listed, all in one page. And it's a beautiful sight to see as a recruiter. One-page resume, much more preferred nowadays. Now, what are some keywords in aviation? Make sure you list the aircraft worked. Again, Boeing, Embraer, Airbus. Include the aircraft that you've worked on, because that's going to help your chances of getting a job, and that's what you want to focus on. And here's some other basic keywords through aviation that will help your resume get picked up. Down here, I have a list of common entry-level jobs. So make sure you include these keywords in your experience, and as well as a summary that you're interested in acquiring a job at. Make sure you include your tool list, and also make sure you key in these specific words that are specific to the job you're looking to enter. And that's all I have for you guys today. So I want to open it up to questions. Does anybody have a question? Feel free to type it in the chat. Feel free to ask Susan. We'll go ahead and give it a few minutes for questions. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and list my contact information to connect with you lovely students.
Thank you, Gavin. Yes, feel free to type it in the chat or take yourself off mute, and either with or without your camera, you can ask questions. While everyone's thinking, I do have a quick question. You covered all of the tips for being professional at interviews and stuff, but what if there's a virtual interview? Do you have any quick tips for a virtual setting?
Yeah, absolutely. So virtual interviews still very common. Still very common, especially phone call interviews. So I say if it's a virtual interview and you're speaking on Microsoft Teams, if you're speaking on Zoom, whether the hiring manager asks for it or not, turn on your camera. Show that you're dressed well. Show that you have the energy that they're looking for, that you would display in person. You want to treat it as if you are in person, but you're just behind the camera. So make sure that you come professional, make sure that you use the camera, and make sure to continue to ask those questions. And hiring managers appreciate that, because for the most part, they're used to interviewing. And so they're going to have their camera on. They're going to be used to speaking with students, with candidates. you just want to make sure you reciprocate that.
Awesome, thank you. And then with that, I just want to add, make sure you have a good background, whether it's blurred or you
Right.
have a clean like picture setting background. You don't want it to be messy. If you're in your room, clean up your room a little bit. If you are in an open space, make sure you find a quiet space as well. You don't want to have those interactions, those interruptions. So just make sure of your surroundings whenever you're interviewing virtually.
Absolutely, that's a great point. And there's a lovely feature that we use every day that me and Susan have right now with the blur. So if you're in a library, if you're in a public space, again, find a quiet spot and just show the respect that you would want to reciprocate, that the manager is going to reciprocate as well.
Great, thanks, Gavin. It doesn't look like anyone has any questions.
No questions.
No one typed anything. So if everyone is okay with all the information that you got today, then we will say goodbye and thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Gavin, for this great presentation. And we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Susan and Donna. You guys are incredible to work with. Again, whether you guys have questions now or later, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I've also included my work number. If you have a question, shoot me a text message. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to get to those, whether it be right away or it be a day or two, depending on how busy we are over here. I'm always happy to connect with interested students and job seekers. But again, my name's Gavin. Thank you so much, Susan and Donna, for having me. And I hope you all have a great remainder of your week.
Thank you, Gavin. Great presentation.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.